to say, I am a mole and I live in a hole.
I am a mole.
No, you have to go, ba. I am a mole and I live in a hole.
Boom, 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 boom.
I am a mole and I live in a hole.
Bim, 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 bim.
I am a mole and I live in a hole.
Boom, boom, boom. You always drag me into such stupidity.
But that's why I love you, because you join me.
Do I?
You come and you be stupid with me.
Yeah.
My God, the other day, we should get the film off Kiki. Mark dragged me all the way around this whole floor. God, I was laughing so much by my foot. But then I nearly died. Tell them how I nearly died.
Well, then I pushed her legs up
He
towards her head.
folded me over, you know, like a 9-year-old does. No, not 9.
My
Is
stomach.
that you?
It's my stomach.
Jesus, Mark. You look very good looking today. You always look
God,
good looking,
thank
but
you.
you look sort of
I feel like shit.
boyish. Well, you don't look
boyish.
like shit. So then he got my knees and he folded me over and we just had honey chicken. And it was the most horrible thing. I've always
Did
thought...
it return on you?
Well, no, because I was actually dying because my stomach was pushed against my lungs. My lungs were just empty and my God, it was frightening. And I couldn't speak. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die here on my sitting room floor with Mark, laughing manically, squishing my legs. I go, hey. Apparently.
Yeah, it would have been an unceremonious way to go.
It would have been awful. So Kiki had filmed it without
She
us
showed me
knowing.
it again
They
this
film
morning.
everything. And then they never let us have any of those films, by the way. They just put it on Snapchat or whatever they do, or pass it to their friends. And she sent it to Maddie because Maddie's in Bristol, and Maddie apparently went, oh my God, Mum looked like she was going to die. So she could tell from the film.
Yeah, no, Kiki
But
showed...
you just kept squishing
Kiki showed
them.
me it this morning. It's very funny, especially as you're dragged, because your hair just goes out like a...
There was one moment, there was just one split second where I thought, oh, this is quite nice. And I went with it like in a roller coaster, and I was just looking at the lights and the ceiling.
Yeah. No, it was funny.
It was
No,
funny.
it was really funny. It was, yeah, it was funny. Kiki just went, you were so slow dragging her.
I just don't think she realised my weight.
Lior, hi, morning. Hi, how are you this morning? Yeah, don't do that, Mark. Yeah, no, I realise that.
It was funny, though.
Amber says thank you for her signed photo. We are moving our way alphabetically through all of the signed photos. There are a lot. So we're going to do some more today.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. No, Anne-Marie, thank you so much for the lovely card. Such a nice surprise.
Oh, somebody there saying 50th. Yeah,
And
we
Amber
will.
Grindley.
Oh, hello, Amber. We will. I remember writing your card. So who's that? The Peach 72, member for 15 months. Could I have
Oh.
a happy birthday? It was my 50th yesterday. Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday
the Peach
to
72.
you.
Happy birthday, the
to
Peach
you.
72.
Happy
Happy birthday
the
for being
Peach
50 yesterday.
72.
Happy birthday to you.
You'll notice that Nadia always goes off-piste, don't you, with a happy
Yeah,
birthday?
Jen Legs, you haven't been here for a while.
Yeah.
Where
For
have you been,
yonks.
Jen?
For yonks. I saw someone immediately kicked off by mentioning they're worried about their husband's health
Right,
because
so
they're
that-
your other half.
Right,
Because
okay, well,
they're-
let's kick off then, because we were, as I was just saying over on Instagram, we were discussing which bits of the news we should talk about today. And then we said, why don't we just ask people what is worrying you the most? Because yes, it could be the war, but it could be other things. It could be, well, okay, what's worrying you the most?
Well, it's kind of attached to the news. I'm worried about the 4 troops who've gone AWOL from the British Army and have headed out to Ukraine, because if they get caught, shot or identified, in what way are the Russian commanders not going to think that that's the British who've sent troops in undercover? So highly responsible, but 4 troops, one from the, I forget the name of it, the something Scots Guards. One of them, they've all gone AWOL. They've literally gone
and gone
absent
to
without
fight in
leave.
Ukraine. And that's effectively a NATO country having troops
Yeah,
in Ukraine.
yeah.
I mean, it's so stupid.
So that
Scary.
worries me. That
Yeah, it
worries
worries
me.
me.
Louise Cairns, we're not talking about a film, I don't think. Are we talking about a film? Have we been talking about a film? She's asking what film are we talking
Oh
about.
no, we're not talking about the film, darling.
No.
We were talking about Mark dragging me around the
Oh,
pit.
sorry. So yeah,
So
that
that's your
worries
top
me.
worry.
Yeah. So I'm worried about all the finer detail. I'm worried about how Putin will respond to us saying we're not going to buy his oil. I'm worried how he's going to get angrier and double down on his, pillage of Ukraine. But so those are the sort of macro worries.
Yeah.
What are your worries? And
My-
the migrant problem, the refugees problem. That's also.
My biggest worries are when the kids start to really realise how serious things are, how we'll
Yeah.
manage that.
Yeah.
Because I think at the moment they're being kept away from it. They don't even allow them to talk about it in school, apparently,
No.
Kiki said. I am as worried about our government as I was before this. It's like James O'Brien said the other day, the evidence that is stacking up against this government is absolutely mind-blowing. And I realise we have to stick with Boris, we have to stick with who we've got because we're in the middle of this horrendous situation. But yet again, the way they are treating the Ukrainian refugees is making me sick to my absolutely sick to my stomach. That incredible speech from Zelensky yesterday that broke my heart. You know, I didn't realise that no foreign leaders ever addressed the House of Commons before.
No, it's quite something, isn't it?
And I'm very worried about Priti Patel and what she's up to, all of that. I'm worried about Putin getting angrier, and I'm worried about my dad, who's very worried about all of it all the time. So
Yeah, because he's kind of got a little bit better, and then he's worried about this.
I'm also really worried about, how much worse are things going to get? A lot of people are saying here that they're worried about the cost of everything. There's lots of people going up.
Well, it's
and I was thinking,
petrol, gas bills,
Yeah, and I was thinking, in between whatever they're talking about, Ukraine, of course, they're constantly saying, and fuel prices are going to go, and fuel prices are going. It's just a constant pump. So for people that are already struggling, that must be petrifying. That's petrifying beyond, there's so many people saying they're choosing between heating and eating. Let's not forget Dominic Raab saying 6 months ago, that's never going to happen in this country.
Yeah.
They haven't prepared for anything. For anything. It's like they keep saying, Putin's troops have been on the border of Ukraine for months and months and years, actually. And this has been escalating for a long time. And yet there was no plan in place for potential refugees. They don't look ahead.
No, there's no forward planning.
There's
at all.
no forward planning. John Campbell always said this through the pandemic. They're constantly firefighting instead of getting ahead of stuff. And I think that makes me feel anxious. And because at the moment we can't really say anything about the government because we're in what we're in, it's like, what else are they fucking up? That's what worries me.
I mean, interestingly, quite a few people have been coming through on social media talking about the fact that exactly what's happening in Ukraine is happening and has been happening in all sorts of other countries. For example, Syria, Ethiopia, Yemen. There's a lot of...
People have been selling their babies in Afghanistan and selling their kidneys, and we've seen the films over and over again.
Yeah.
And there's no... But I suppose you can't get away from the fact that people are going to feel more urgent about this because it's on the doorstep. And it's just human nature. It's wrong. We should be as sympathetic to every person, every refugee. Well, I am in my heart. I just don't see the difference, really. But the reason why there is such a movement is because people are shit scared it's going to be us eventually.
Well, I do think...
Because he feels like Hitler.
I mean, it's not to kind of prioritise any set of circumstances, but there is that aspect to this that he has got his finger hovering over a potential nuclear bomb. And
That's why people are so much more focused.
Yeah, and I think the nature of the villainy is what makes this slightly different. Sarah Jane says Dominic Raab is an idiot. People have always had to choose between heating and eating in the
How
UK.
could he have even
He's not
said
got
that?
a clue
He
about the
hasn't got a
poverty
clue.
on Britain's breadline. Beth Scammell says, I'm a civil servant and I know the government scrapped all their plans for a pandemic in 2018. They don't care about the people.
Thank you for that, Beth.
Yeah, astonishing. There is literally zero forward planning for anything. For anything. Oh, look at this.
Jade Louisa, I'm most worried about nuclear war and my children suffering. I think that's right up there for so many of us, isn't it?
Yeah. Sarah Bradley found my daughter crying in her bed last night because she's so scared of the war starting over here. They are learning about it at school. She's only 9.
Well, that's interesting, Sarah, because Kiki says, because we said, how are the school talking about... She said, oh, God, we get told off if we mention it, which I don't think is particularly right either, I think. because there's so many people with such high anxiety about it. We're actually going to do a Confessions of a Modern Parent on this live, because I think we all need as parents just to have a bit of a chat about how we're coping with it. It's rather like the pandemic again, isn't it? It's like you want to lie to them, you want to say, oh, it's all going to be fine, and it's finding that balance. It's very tough.
Anne-Marie says, this may be controversial, but I don't care how much petrol rises to. I'll go out without if it punishes this bastard Putin.
Yeah.
Sorry for swearing. Yeah, I mean, the big news yesterday was that America and Britain are going to stop buying Russian oil. Britain's going to bring that in 9 months, because switching the taps is quite a dramatic thing. It's curious, isn't it? I mean, Russia have threatened back that they're going to switch off the gas, and if they switch off the gas, Germany's going to be in for it. And then also, just another final part of the story is a curious kind of, it's like a sort of push me, pull you scenarios developed between Poland and America, where they're wanting to swap jets so that the jets that go to Ukraine come from America rather than Poland. So this is Poland wanting to ensure that they're not really in the line of fire, but it's caught the Americans on the hoof, really. They haven't sanctioned this. So there's a bit of confusion going on about the jets that could set off to fight against. But the thing that worries me about that is Putin's made it very, very clear that any launched jets, the country that they launch from, will be dealt with severely.
Yeah.
Faith Goodman makes a really I saw Russia experts saying, be worried about who might replace President Putin. Not good news about future. Well, apparently a lot of the people around him are total hawks. A lot of them are saying annex all of Ukraine. I mean, could we be looking at Putin being the most liberal aspect of the Russian leadership? That would be frightening.
But I wonder about how much of that is propaganda coming out of Russia as well. It's getting to the point now where it is hard to know what's the truth. I mean, we've heard him that he's got every kind of mental disorder, physical disorder. I mean, it's just you just don't know what to believe about him anymore. I mean, all I know is when I've seen him talking to his group of very high up people, I don't know what you call them there, they all look terrified. None of them look like a worse case than him.
Yeah.
They look terrified.
Yeah. Jade Louisa, Mark, are you still optimistic this won't escalate to W3? I'd be lying if I said I'm optimistic about anything. When you're dealing with such an unknowable, I call him a villain because he's so like a Bond villain, isn't he? In this whole, I think the Poland airplane scenario has risks. It's the first time NATO countries have been split on something. And that worries me because Putin's always looking for cracks and fissures in the West. I am concerned. I mean, do I think World War III? I'm sort of comforted by the fact that the senior military in Russia have said, we're not going to use Russian weapons. But my worry is really in Ukraine is how hard Putin's going to hit. I mean, by all accounts, it's not just a slight fuck up with that convoy. It is a massive, spectacular fuck up.
He is really struggling.
Yeah.
It's not going to plan.
And apparently Arctic winds are about to hit today, which is going to make them minus 20 degrees,
people in Ukraine
40-ton freezers that soldiers are in. I mean, you could, it's
what do you mean? Oh, in the
because of the winds within their tanks and armored vehicles. There's going to be, they're like 40-ton refrigerators with I think minus 40 degrees winds in the wind chill.
And let's just remember, a lot of those soldiers are in their first year. They thought they were on a peacekeeping mission. I do feel for all those Russian mothers as well and fathers. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And morale is on the floor. Of course it is. They're freezing cold. They're not getting fed properly, the Russian soldiers. Their diesel is gone. They're not getting... I mean, they are stuck there.
Their food rations
I mean,
have gone.
is it a case, Mark, that they could be starving to death, that 40 mile?
Yeah, their food...
40 miles?
Their food has run out. And the Ukrainians are cleverly peppering off the kind of supply chain. So every time new food or new armory or ammunition arrives or doesn't arrive, it's because they've been taken out by the Ukrainians.
Anne-Marie, it's so true. We need the Russian people to revolt. We need a revolution from the Russian people, but he has such an iron fist on them. Could that ever happen? But I mean, it is great, these sanctions. I mean, all the brands pulling out of Russia, because however much they pump out the news to them, surely now the Russian people are going, well, what the hell is going on? Why is every single company pulled out at great cost to them?
Yeah.
I mean, McDonald's have closed 850 stores there, and that was just the people power, because there were there was threats of a worldwide boycott. And I do love that. I do love the people pulling together and making these brands. But Anne-Marie asked a good question there, Mark. We're hearing all the time, my God, you know, politicians will tell us all the time, Biden will tell us all the time, that we have put the most severe sanctions, that we, you know, it's been brutal for Putin. But do any of us think he cares? Honestly, will this now be impacting on him? It must do, surely.
Not yet, no, not yet. I mean...
But they couldn't even trade. Yeah, they couldn't
No,
even
no,
trade.
no, I mean, yeah, of course, there's a shock to the system. But he seems unaffected. Apparently it's costing him 700 million, so $750 million every day, keeping his army in Russia. And at some point, that's going to take its toll. And apparently every day, the
For
West...
how much? $750 million every day?
Yeah, it's a huge amount of money.
This makes me feel a bit better.
And if you
All
think...
this makes me feel a bit better.
And if you think that essentially the West was bankrolling that by buying $750 million
Yes.
worth of oil every day, stopping the oil is a major Achilles heel for him. But I've read in reports today, the Telegraph was saying, it's notional, the impact that will have. He'll just find other markets to sell to, China and all that kind of stuff.
I really believe we need to start boycotting the countries that haven't come out against him.
Well, that's Eritrea,
India, China,
and India. That's
Pakistan?
North Korea.
Pakistan?
Pakistan, I'm not entirely sure. They weren't on the list
Well,
of
Imran Khan just did a big deal with them on the day that he invaded and came out for photographs with him.
But I don't necessarily think in the UN he kind of... It's only me, I can't find your comment, but it was a really important comment that we can't actually hide the crisis from our kids, because they do see it on all their social... We have talked about that before.
all of the advice, and it's what we've been doing. Not so much Maddie, we haven't seen Maddie so much, but Kiki, I regularly, you know, tap into her and say, you know, what's it going? How's it going? What are you feeling? Oh, I'm just getting on with this. Well, you know, if you're worried about anything, talk to us. And she said, yeah, you know. And then she said to me, I saw this girl, she's about my age, and she had to leave Ukraine, and now she's in this house with these other people, and it's not her house, and she's sharing a bed with all her siblings, and it's really freezing cold. And I was like, oh God, poor thing. Oh yeah, she's a refugee. She said, and I looked at all the rest of her account, and just a few weeks ago, she was just like me. She was going to a dance class, she was doing this, she was doing that, she was posting videos, and now everything from her life is taken. So on the one hand, she's saying to me, oh, I'm not thinking about it. But on the other hand, she was summing up absolutely the horror for this 14-year-old girl, and therefore all of them, that their lives have just been... So it's in there. It is in there. I think, personally, it's about not offering too much conversation about it, but them knowing that you can...
Yeah.
That they can talk to you if they need to.
Faith Goodman, going back to the Russian public, if the Russian public had told the rest of the world are against Russia, which you can't... you know, we have no sense in the West the extent to which the media and the propaganda in Russia tells them that anything bad that happens to them is for a bad reason from the West.
Yeah.
This is what they'll believe if their shops or internet are they'll just say that they're the rest of the world's fault rather than President Putin's fault.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you think about it, there is a small group of protesters. I mean, interestingly, I've seen a number of articles recently about can Russian mothers bring an end to this crisis, because of course, you know, the suggestion that their sons weren't told, that it wasn't transparent, are they cannon fodder? It's such a horrible expression, isn't it?
Horrible. But it's happened with every war.
Yeah. Sorry, you were pointing...
Laura Lou, this makes me sad. My son is 6. He said in the supermarket that he hates Putin for putting the food prices up. I don't know how he even heard of him. Or Pukin, as we're calling him. Putrid Pukin.
Putrid Pukin. Claire Naismith, hope you're well. They're talking about sanctioning Belarus too. You'd think they should...
Belarus is Russia.
Yeah, haven't they done that yet? I mean, I thought they'd brought in some. Sarah Jane, 100% faith. The Russians won't be told this due to Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Russian news is heavily moderated. They're just pushing up the disdain of the West. Entirely agree. And I think we would be horrifically surprised if they did a poll, because of course they don't do things like polls over there. If we did a poll, though I saw one at the beginning where 75% of the Russian population agreed with what was happening. So
I just don't think that's true. I just think we're just, no. People are terrified. He's so brutal. He throws you into a gulag and you don't get out again. They're not stupid, and they were very plugged into the West. And before he cut out Twitter and TikTok and all of these things, it was all coming out. So,
Emma,
and there will be there'll be a way for them to get the news, won't there? There must be some way in.
don't know.
Really?
Don't know. Emma Carter, apparently Amazon have started selling clothes with the Russian Z on. Can you believe that?
You are kidding me.
You can't, obviously there's
For me, that's becoming like a swastika. Symbolic
it really
of the
is.
swastika.
Isn't it funny that these movements have to have that sort of a symbol of some form? If you think about the
So
swastika,
chilling.
isn't the swastika, does it go the way round that it could be a sort of, could be a Z of sorts? Angela Newland, my gran told me yesterday that when Hitler invaded, the average German knew nothing about it. She's 96. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's
there's
true.
huge
That is
propaganda. I
actually
mean,
true.
if you think
But we
what the
didn't have
Germans
the
were doing.
communications then that we
No,
have now.
that is true.
And that's why I still can't believe what we're witnessing. He's doing it in plain sight with every single second of it being filmed, and still he's doing it.
Lorna Jane
'Cause that was
Sullivan.
partly why we thought nothing as terrible as that could happen again.
Well, Lorna Jane Sullivan makes an interesting point. I watched videos of Ukrainians day before Russia invaded, and they genuinely did not believe it would ever happen. Do you remember they were saying that it was hysteria in the West, just like we think it wouldn't here? It gives you pause for thought. I see what
Lucy
you mean.
Williams, absolutely. Lucy Williams says, if I lived in Russia, I would be too terrified to let anyone know that I didn't trust Putin.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same. So that 75% number, where did they get that from?
Yeah.
Because it's a society where anyone could be a spy, or anyone could report you. You're rewarded for reporting any dissent. So, yeah, would you even tell your own mother, brother, sister? I don't know.
Yes, we saw that and talked about it the other day, Anne-Marie, Anonymous, the hacktivists. Getting into Russian TV. I mean, they get into a few stations. They don't get into a lot. But yeah, they hacked their news stations and showed footage of Ukraine. They also popped up this horrendous, quite frightening meme. I mean, I think they're trying to scare the Russians. They have hacked some military. Oh, they hacked one of the Russian army's radio communications, so that parts of the Russian army couldn't communicate with each
Oh
other.
God, I love those people. I love Anonymous. Anonymous, if you want to come round from me, I'll look at your favourites.
They probably only come to us through the internet. Did you see the Russian daughter talking from the EU to her mother in Russia? She wouldn't believe her daughter that Putin would bomb civilians and children, says Joe McKenna. Did you hear about the boy who's walked 750 miles?
11 years old. The most incredible story. His mum
Yeah.
couldn't... Oh, look at Toffee. Oh my God, you've never... I wish we could show it. She is like this in the basket. Just so beautiful. His mum couldn't leave his grandmother. So she gave him a little money, his little rucksack, and he went off on his... Where's he arrived at now, Mark?
I'm not too sure, but 750
He's
miles.
got to somewhere. I can't
Yeah.
remember where it is. Well, let's
Well,
hope
let's
it's not Calais.
Because apparently it's
we
up in
will say
Lille.
to him, sorry, you'll have to go to Lille now.
Yeah, or Paris.
Oh,
Or
but
Paris.
I tell you what, he's a Kit Kat.
Yeah, just add another 20 miles to your 750 miles. Rhys Roberts, it's really important, yes, you're right, that we keep a close eye on the other foreign people of colour navigating through the country and their well-being, because Eastern Europe has often treated people of colour poorly. You mentioned this the other day, and I thought it was a really good point, that at Calais, it's really difficult, because if suddenly a lot of white Ukrainians come through, it's going to be tough for anyone of any ethnic group.
That's why they don't want to
At
set
Calais.
up a visa situation at Calais, because they're literally going to have to show the truth of themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a white refugee from Europe. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you're of colour refugee. You know.
Wait for a bit.
Yeah. So that's why they can't set up a visa place in Calais.
Yeah, that's why it's in Lille or Paris.
Paris. I mean, how are they going to suddenly get, oh my God, broken? And a lot of them have got one baby like this and another one like that.
I think they're at 75, aren't they, now?
No. It's much more now. It's
Oh, is it?
756. 50.
Okay.
But I think Ireland has taken almost 2,000.
Yeah.
But still, Australia has taken more than us.
Yeah, true. Sarah Jane, Putin is so manipulative. To hear the Russian government speak, the story is so twisted. If we weren't
So
seeing our
twisted.
news, I honestly wouldn't know what to believe
Yeah.
either. I can't blame Russia. No, and this is the problem. Innocent Russians are going to be on the receiving end, mostly, of these sanctions.
But the thing is, I'm not even thinking for 1 second that we're going to be able to get anything from the Russian people. We're not. We can't hope for a revolution. We've got to hope. I think we have to sanction these other countries. We have to sanction China.
Yeah.
We have to show them that without us, without the West, you can't keep building your money pots in
Yeah.
the way that you have. We've made these people stinking, dirty, filthy rich because of our greed for more and more things that we don't need and cheaper stuff. And look where we are now.
Carol Naismith, the Kit Kat and water was an embarrassment to Britain when you see what... Well, I said to Nadia, this was the sort of recovery pack that they handed to refugees as they arrived. But you get more if you run a Sunday park race.
Well, I was listening to
You get an energy drink, you get a chocolate bar, you get an energy bar.
Eloquent, articulate Ukrainian man the other day. I think he's been here for about 10 years. And he was talking about how his family are stuck. I don't need a penny. I don't want a penny. My wife and I have always worked since we've been here. I want nothing. I just want them to come to my home so I can look after them. And his wife's an interpreter, and he is fantastic with form filling and all of that. He said you would not believe how complicated the forms are, and all this stuff about if you've got family, it just but if it is as James O'Brien said. Priti Patel is brilliant. She's a genius because the system is keeping everyone out, which is what she wants. So it's working perfectly as to how she dreamt of it.
Hi, Lee. A Kit Kat, they barely even touch the sides. You're right. You have to eat at least 6 of them.
We always have the whole packet when we eat.
Can I just ask you, Nadia? Obviously, after your crush on John Bercow, the fact that he's been accused of bullying.
Oh my God.
How do you feel that floats with the contradiction and hypocrisy of?
Two things. First of all, if he's thrown out, why is not Priti Patel? Because an independent inquiry found Priti Patel unequivocally guilty of bullying. So that's what makes me really feel unsafe about the whole John Bercow. I do have a crush on John Bercow, and it is because of the way that he speaks. He's just incredible. He's the most articulate person I've ever heard in my life. I literally stop when he's on the radio. I can't believe it. But I've just listened to the man who was the victim of his bullying, because he has been found guilty, and it sounds like it was truly horrific. Like, he would have him standing there for 15 minutes, and can you imagine being battered by him? And he said, he came across as a very powerful witness to me listening to him this morning, and I said, well, that's bloody right then. It's bloody right. He should never be there. If he made these people miserable, but so should Priti Patel. I don't understand the difference. And again, in plain sight, Boris thinks he can get away with everything, and he has.
He can.
And he always does. If John Bercow's got to go, so has Priti Patel.
And there was a Tory on, I can't remember, is it Grant Shapps on the radio today saying, I reckon the Conservative Party have done a poll of how allowing more refugees into the country would float with their grassroots supporters.
Yes, it's about power.
And I think they have to sort of tread a fine line between saying we're doing something. I don't think they want to do anything, but they want to do something. And the main argument is that most people from Ukraine want to stay close to Ukraine because they hope to return. I understand that. I can understand that.
But if you've left your home, if you've got nothing but the rucksack on your back, Why would you go to a country where you have no family? I mean, we're still at the point, this is only people with family.
Yeah.
We're not letting everyone in.
Well, so this argument that we could be letting in Russian spies, when you're talking about mothers with children on their chests screaming and
But
crying,
it
I
just
think it's a
doesn't
pretty safe
stand
bet.
up. Salisbury, they got in and they did what they did. If they want to get him and poison us,
exactly.
they will. It's just, I'm not having that.
Joe McKenna makes a good point. We don't need sanctions. If Jeff Bezos just removed all Chinese goods from Amazon, it would be an instant hit.
Yay!
don't
That's
wanna-
a good one to
It
call
is,
for.
but do we want to anger China at the same time? I don't know if we do. We could be fighting a war on two fronts. You know what? The China contingent to this makes me frighteningly it reminds me rather fearfully of the way in which Japan, it's always a curious one, isn't it? The way Japan came into the war, the Second World War. It was like a war on a different front. That could be history repeating itself. If China makes some claim on Taiwan or the Pacific area, you know, that would be stretching the West in two different directions. And that's always the concern, isn't it?
So, did you actually just see that?
Yeah, that's always the concern. Jade Louisa, it worries me that the whole of Europe could be refugees if things get worse. You do wonder, if we were attacked, where would we go? Do you know what I mean? Where would we go? It's like the north of Europe. Everyone gravitates north. Scotland? Would we move to Scotland?
Trident's in Scotland.
No, that's true. Ireland. Maybe we could all evacuate to Ireland. Okay, well,
That was interesting because
that
we
was
said, what's
interesting.
worrying you the most? And actually, it is still
It's
the war.
the war,
It's
yeah.
the war and it's the cost of living.
Yeah. So we're going to head off, and something will be landing on the channel later. There is a vlog in the works which will be coming. It's the second half of our totally chaotic deconstruction of Christmas.
We're a bit behind.
Yeah, we are a bit behind. So guys, have a lovely day, and avoid the news if it worries you, and come here tomorrow if you want the news kind of digested and unpacked. Stay safe. Love you.